Hello and welcome to a new episode of Everstage's Go to Master show. We're part of our third season right now. We bring you conversation with RevOps and GTM leaders from some of the most successful companies today and learn from their unique stories. Joining us today is Vikas Sareen, International RevOps Director at EMEA for Tealium. Welcome to the podcast, Vikas. Thanks for being here today. Could you share a little bit about yourself to our listeners?
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. And I was looking forward to it. Um, so my experience, I'll take you back in early 2000s. So I finished my graduation from India and came to the UK to pursue higher education. I did my master's in international finance and then did a postgraduate diploma in corporate finance and investments. The aim was to get into financial market as a trader or broker for that matter. But timing probably wasn't that right. 2008 is when we saw financial crisis all across the globe, and I couldn't sit without a job for very long. So I thought, okay, what's next? What else can I do? So that's when I decided to get into the accountancy finance side of things. Started my career with a very small but quite known brand in the UK. Joined them as accounts receivable person, and worked with them for some time, almost 1.5 year. Rose to the ranks of manager, accounts payable manager, and then got into the company called Telefonica. So Telefonica, as we all know, it's O2. It's a brand name. It's the parent company of O2 in the UK. So that's where I started my journey into the kind of finance, core finance side of things. So I started my role there as a commissions analyst. Did the role for almost 5-6 months, and during that period of time, I got an offer from Thomson Reuters back in 2011, end of 2010, beginning of 2011. Joined Thomson Reuters as a commissions analyst, worked in that role for almost 1.5 for 2 years. And that's when, I got into business partnering side of things as well, right? So at Thomson Reuters, I would work with pretty much all the account executives across EMEA region. Uh, Started with administering, their commission calculations, making sure they are getting calculated on time, they're getting paid on time, there are no errors, those type of things. And then, while working at Thomson Reuters, I gradually got moved into some analytics side of things on the commission side. I was involved in the implementation of a commission tool across the globe, and I was one of the few people selected globally to represent the commissions team in implementation of that tool. So that kind of started my career into, not career, my understanding of business analysis, right? My understanding of how you gather requirements from different teams, right? Why it is important to understand the problems and then work through the solution. And sometimes the you cannot probably provide the full solution, but at least you can come up with alternate options and make your your business partners, your stakeholders kind of happy. So did that, and then I got into finance role, right? So finance role again was around working with the sales people, but at a different capacity, right? Looking at a bigger picture of what is our forecast for the year, what is our budget for the year, and you kind of split it down into quarters. You have regular conversations with the sales people, the heads of sales, to understand how we are trending against our budgets, our forecast for the period, and kind of try and try and kind of provide that information to the senior people within finance so that they can do their budgeting, forecasting, or if any adjustments required, they can do that. And during my time in that role, I got into a bit of analysis around kind of looking at how we were performing against our budget over a period of time, right? So let's say for last 1 year, 2 years, we were noticing that our performance against budget was at a certain percentage, right? And then project that to the future, right? You take into consideration seasonalities, you take into consideration different things, and come up with some sort of projections. That projections helped in our conversations with the salesperson, right? When I say salesperson, it's a sales leader. So if a sales leader is saying, oh, this is what I think I would be able to bring in this quarter or next quarter, then you'll take a look at your projections and see, okay, you are saying this, but based on our projections, we are coming up with this number. How do you prove our numbers wrong, right? So a very that then drives a very I would say engaged conversation, that okay, you are coming prepared, because in finance role you are not speaking with the customers that much, right? You're totally at the mercy of our salespeople to kind of let you know about the situation. However, if both sides go prepared on the call become quite useful, right? And you come out with some solid understanding of where we are with the numbers, right? So that's what we kind of used to do. And then I moved into central finance role, where I was sitting in the center of whole of EMEA finance team, and my role was to get the information from sub-regional finance team and consolidate that information and prepare deck on weekly, monthly basis. And that deck would include things like forecasting versus budgeting, the commentary on forecasting. Just imagine, we used to have, I think at that time, it was long ago. So I think we used to have like four sub-regions within EMEA at that time. So you could get all the commentary from there. And then we did not have any AI that time, that you plug different comments into the AI tool and they give you a one consolidated comment, right? It was all done by humans, right? So I was right at the center of it, understanding what each team is saying and then producing commentary at EMEA level, because then that EMEA level commentary, then that gets plugged into the global level commentary with the Americas and with APJ, right? And then one commentary. So we had to be very, very precise that we are able to put the message across in as less words as possible, right? And without any use of chat GPT or Gemini or anything, right? It was all done single-handedly. Then my responsibility was also to kind of take a look at our data, how our data is looking. We used to have calls around debt, right? Aged creditors, those type of conversations we used to have. And yeah, so exciting time at Thomson Reuters. Spent almost 6.5 years at Thomson Reuters and have lots of great memories. And I think Thomson Reuters has played a massive role in my progression, right? Both from the point of view of gaining that confidence to speak with people, confidence to put your point across, confidence to say no for that matter at times. Those things help a lot, right? So my chapter at Thomson Reuters finished, I think, at the beginning of 2018. I think it was January or February. That's when I kind of finished at Thomson Reuters, and in a couple of months I joined IQvia. Right, I joined IQvia as a commercial operations analyst. Right, completely different role. Right, never been into operations, never been into,
Yeah, like I'm curious, like how coming from a finance background and then you've handled commissions a lot, and I really resonate with what you're saying because like commissions people usually tend to be in supporting roles, and it's hard for them to move across and move up the ladder. And you seem to have cracked that, and you've hit a very good point in your finance role, and then the shift to operations from IQvia, and then now you're the RevOps director at Tealium. So how did that happen?
I think that's a very good question. I actually, haven't ever thought about it, but I think what worked for me is I always kept an open mind, right? I always had the hunger to learn. I always had the hunger to learn. Okay, I'm working in finance. Okay, that is the operations team. What do they do, right? What do they do in operations team, right? What is their day to day, right? How are there any similarities between finance role and operations role, right? We support salespeople, they support sales people, but at what capacity they support salespeople? What are the things that they're doing? And once you have this curiosity to learn what other function is doing, then you may also tend to see, oh, that could be interesting. I would love to be a part of that, right? Oh, that might be interesting thing. Let's explore more. I think that helped me, right? And I've always been someone who likes to keep my enthusiasm towards learning open, right? I like to know what different departments do, how everything kind of comes together, right? How is for example operations role connected to marketing role? How is marketing connected to sales? How is sales connected to solution consulting, partnering, for that matter, right? So I think that helped me a lot. Other thing that helped me is maintaining good relationships with people, right? So you speak with people, you tell them what is it that you do, what is it that you want to do in the future, right? And you also ask them, what is it that your team does, what is your day-to-day job like, what are the things that you get involved in, those type of things. And once you know what is happening, only then you can decide, okay, or only then you will be able to realize, okay, that's interesting, I would love to get into that. I've always had hunger for data analytics. Data analytics is something that I always wanted to get into, and when I went for interview at IQvia, I found that that is a role that I could kind of learn a lot, because that role involved use of quite a few tools. We were still kind of living for internal analytics at that time. We were still living in the era of Excel, Access databases, and Python was picking up that time, right? So I saw an opportunity to learn something new. I saw an opportunity to work with a different industry, because Thomson Reuters is a financial services industry, IQvia is a healthcare industry. And then I thought, it's a great opportunity. It's an opportunity where I would learn a lot. And same thing happened. So I was with IQvia for almost 1.5 years. I started at a point where my knowledge was nothing. And after 7 or 8 months, because of my hard work, because of my curiosity to learn more, to understand how things work, I became a subject matter expert, right? People were kind of, coming to me, asking me question, hey, Vikas, how can we do this? How could we do this? And I was able to kind of, build some of the things, from the very scratch, like, you know, um, things like building some sort of commercial models where you take a look at what's closed, what's in the pipeline, what's the probability, and then you kind of project that model for rest of the year. And continuously you kind of look at the performance each quarter versus the budget, and then you kind of move forward that way. I was also involved in some kind of ad hoc analysis for the CRO, for the CEO, head of sales at IQvia. So that was a good time. I got to learn about systems, how everything kind of fall together, how the whole sales system really works, right? What are the different component of sales, how it starts, where it finishes, those type of things. While at IQvia, I then switched into a business analyst role because there was a requirement for a role, and me being have that curiosity cap always on my head, want to learn new things, and business analyst was something that I wanted to kind of get into for a very very long time. And then I thought, okay, maybe another feather in my hat, let's do it. So got into business analyst, where I was then, being a subject matter expert, I was then collecting information from stakeholders as to what they would like to see in a dashboard, in an infograph, or any kind of data analytics tool, and presenting those information to the developers, right? And be a central point of contact in order to answer any query, in order to kind of take a look at how things are progressing, and at times maybe nudge the team to kind of create some urgency. So yeah, that was Tealium, and oh, sorry, that was IQvia. Tealium happened by chance, right? Got contacted by a recruiter asking, they probably found me on LinkedIn and they wanted to get in touch with me and see how this role fits. And sometimes, Aditya, what happens is that you probably do not know you probably do not know your worth, but the person who is looking at your CV, who is kind of scanning through your experiences, they probably know your worth more than you do sometimes, right? And that's what happens, right? That's what happened with me in case of Tealium. The lady who was recruiting for that role, she reached out and said, "Oh, because you could be a very good candidate for this role because you have got experience from different industries, different different departments within an organization, and your career trajectory has been quite good. You are not someone who are in an organization for a smaller period of time. You go there, you work there for good amount of time before you kind of look for other opportunities." And went for interview process. It went well. It went really really well, and that's when my journey at Tealium began. So I joined Tealium, I think, end of December or mid December 2019. So we'll be finishing 6 years at Tealium. I joined
Mhm.
Tealium as a sales operations analyst. Um, that time we were growing, very kind of small team, and it's a in grand scheme of thing, right? I was coming from organizations with 50, 60,000 employees to an organization with less than 1,000 employees globally, right? The best part of it was that that you get involved with everything, right? You are doing admin work, you are doing some strategic work, you are getting involved in lots of conversation. And what helped me, maybe I was lucky at that time, what helped me was that we were less number of people in the team, and that's why I got involved in sales operations side of things, right? I did a course in Salesforce admin, but I did not take my exams. But I did the course in Salesforce admin, understood how Salesforce admin side of things work, how Salesforce works. So another new learning for me. And then I got into deals side of things, right? I also got involved in the revenue execution, as they call it, or deal desk side of things, and ended up becoming a subject matter expert on in both areas in Tealium. And after, I think, 2 years of working or 3 years of working at Tealium, I was promoted to director at revenue operations. And currently, I'm working very closely with the sales organization within EMEA region, and my role is to first and foremost to kind of have that stakeholder relationship with all my business partners in EMEA region, um, be be a source of truth for the people when it comes to data analytics, when it comes to the forecasting pipeline, review and those type of things, and also a trusted partner with pretty much everyone in the region. So yeah, so far so good. I'm glad that I got an opportunity to work at Tealium, and I'm lucky to be associated with the team. And I think there is lot of scope within the revenue operations team within Tealium, right? And across different organizations to utilize the overall potential of revenue operations team.
How do you describe the RevOps of today, Vikas?
I think revenue operations as a function, there is no set apart from the standard roles and responsibilities of revenue operations. I think the scope of this department or role, whatever you want to call it, right, is expanding like anything. Right? There is no set definition that, okay, XYZ are the responsibilities of revenue operations across all the industries, all the companies, right? For a startup, right, the revenue operations role could be different, right? For a financial services industry, it could be different. For automotive industry, it could be different. For SaaS organization, it could be different, right? But the main thing, that sits at the very center of revenue operations role, I would boil it down to maybe two or three. One thing is relationship, right? You need to be a people person. You need to be a people person. You need to be able to put yourself into, other person's shoes, right? That's one thing. Other thing is you should have the hunger to learn, right? You should have hunger to understand the business. You should have the hunger to understand what challenges the business, when I say business, the teams are facing, right? What are the quick wins? What are the low hanging fruits, right? How do you prioritize things, right? And the other thing is, I mean, in today's world, I think I know that it's salespeople who are selling, but I think everyone is selling, right? In revenue operations role, I'm selling to my stakeholders the ideas, right? The processes, the vision, right? If we do this, if we kind of meet up on regular basis and look after our look at our pipeline, review our pipeline, there are going to be good results. If we do forecasting better, so this is a kind of a selling, right? You should be good at selling internally, right? Rest of the things I think can be learned, right?
Okay.
Rest of the things, like for example, Salesforce. How do you manage Salesforce? It is, and I'm talking about someone who wants to enter into the world of revenue operations, right? But if you are looking to get into, let's say, a director or senior manager or manager role within revenue operations, then obviously you need to understand some of the basic concepts, right? But if you are starting or if you are thinking of a career in revenue operations, I would say these are some of the qualitative traits, right, that one should have in order to succeed. Always have a hunger, always be a, try to be a people person, try to, understand the other person, and try to be curious and try to look at the bigger picture, right?
Yeah. And I think that's something very common from people who've been there in RevOps for a while to always say that the human element is important. But how do you balance between, let's say, the data-driven decision making of RevOps, which is like at the end of the day, RevOps is there to say the truth, right? Like this is the fact, this is what actually happened. Let's not assume something else. And how do you balance that with the human dynamics? And when you're especially supporting sales team across regions, how do you balance them both?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that comes with experience, that comes with understanding of the dynamics of the team, right? And that comes with how you kind of, present your data, right? Um, Hypothetically, let's say if if we know that not much pipeline is being generated, right? Then I would say you do someone kind of who is looking at this, that there is a problem. You try and look at the data, right? Not just from the quantitative angle, but also from the qualitative angle, right? When I say qualitative angle, you look at the data and you see, okay, why a lot of pipeline is not being generated, right? uh, are we creating enough pipeline? Is that because the pre-pipeline, as we call it, or early stage pipeline is not getting converted? If it is not getting converted, that means something is falling off the funnel, right? Then you look at what are the reasons that the opportunities are falling off the funnel, right? Why lots of early stage opportunities are getting put to close lost, and then you look at the reasons, and then you try and work out how we can improve on that, how we can, for example, nurture that. So when you are presenting the data, right, present the data, right, but with that data also present some insights, right? And insights are like, I mean, just kind of think of a scenario where someone comes to you and say, "Hey, our pipeline is not looking good." Full stop, right? And someone else who comes to you and says, "Hey, our pipeline is not looking good. I've run some analysis, right? And these XYZ are the reasons, and these are probably some of the things that we can do to increase the pipeline. What are your thoughts on it?" Right? Who would you engage more with, right? That's where the human element and understanding of data and presenting of data element kind of comes in the picture, right? So it's always about telling a story with data, right? Because if someone is telling you something, and someone else is telling you a story, and with facts, right? All the fact with the factual information, both from both sources, you're getting factual information, but from one source, you're getting a story, right? You would probably be engaging more with the person who is telling you the story, and you would probably be be more open to take actions, based on the story that's being told to you. So that's something that I believe in, and that's how I generally have my conversations with the teams.
Uh, and how do you see how RevOps in the world of operations changes with AI coming into this, right? Like, what happens to RevOps leaders and how does their role change in the next few years? And what skills do you think will be valuable for RevOps professionals going?
I would say, you know, I I often describe revenue operation as the human AI agent within the organization, right? Within the sales organization. And if you look at it, we do operate in a very, very kind of quantitative world, right? It's all about numbers, right? How we are doing versus our forecast, how we are doing versus our budgets, our pipeline targets, different targets, right? But yes, that is a factual information, right? But it is a human intelligence which tries to understand what is the reasoning behind it, right? Why we are not meeting those targets, right? Is that a resourcing issue? Is that a training issue? Is that an education issue? Is that, any XYZ issue, right? And I think that element will always be there, right? That element is will always be there because, and that's why, it is very important that both AI and our kind of human intelligence kind of exist side by side. Because I mean, if you look at it, AI works on the fact that, okay, for example, in Salesforce you have got lots of data, right? AI will look at it. Okay, they will take a look at things like, okay, this numbers is not working well. AI can probably get into the activities and look at, these many activities have happened. AI can probably take a look at how the conversations between the customer as well as the salespeople is happening, and based on that, they can build some sort of model and kind of come up with result. Okay, the pipeline is not working well, or this opportunity is not doing well because of XYZ reason. They can rank it based on the algorithm you provide, right? But end of the day, there's also a human element attached to it, right? There is human element which kind of goes into things like, what is the context, right? What is the underlying context? um, are we having some resourcing challenge? Have people been trained properly, right? uh, do we know, do, do our sales teams or do our teams know what are the sales stages definitions? Do we know, those type of things, Aditya? And I think that element will always be there, right? That um, and again, I'll emphasize more on the point that, you know uh, 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 you combine the story, you combine the data and storytelling with some feedback, with some understanding of the underlying context. Those type of things, I think, maybe in next 5 years, 6 years, AI can take over, and we see quite a lot of things that AI is doing nowadays. But at this stage, I think that is very important.
Got it. And so far in your journey, Vikas, like, are there any like go-to resources or books or podcasts that you regularly do that has helped for someone to scale their career in RevOps as they move into this era of AI?
That is a very good question. Honestly speaking, I have not read a lot of books about revenue operations, but I do know that there are lots of them. Um, one or two books. I mean, I haven't read them, but I have kind of I would say I have kind of had a chance to scan through them and see, some of the topics that I was looking for, those type of things. One book I will recommend is the book called "Measure What Matters." Right? It is it is, in my opinion, a very good book for understanding understanding the OKRs as well as the data-driven goal setting, right? Quite a good book. I haven't read it all, so I would love to hear your opinion after kind of, if someone has had a chance to read it. But I've read a couple of pages and I found this book quite good. Uh, I think in terms of podcasts, again, I haven't heard a lot of them, but there is this podcast called OpStars, by Lean Data, if I'm not wrong, right? So that podcast is quite good. And then there is another one. I think it's called Sales Ops Demystified or something. I think that's quite also good podcast. I've not heard, a lot of it, but whatever I have heard, I've kind of learned quite a lot from it.
And if I were to ask you, Vikas, like, what are three advices you will give to someone who aspire to excel in the field of RevOps? What would you give them? Especially for someone who's made the transition from You started as a almost like a financial analyst and commissions analyst, and from there to a director of RevOps. And I think that transition is very important for you to get a seat at the table and do strategic decision making. So, if you were to give three pieces of advice for people in that journey, what would you say them?
Okay, let me let me think for a few seconds. I would say, my first advice to my first advice would be, think in systems, not just tools. Right. What I mean by that is kind of, don't fall into this trap of becoming a tech stack administrator. Right. In my opinion, the true kind of, all the RevOps leader I have worked with in the past, and my definition of a true RevOps leader is, someone who looks at the bigger picture, right? Someone who kind of, has the understanding of, how data, processes, people, as well as tools, they work together to drive growth, right? So I think the understanding of bigger picture is very important. Um, Another bit that I will say that also mentioned in the past is about master. I would say master your communication skills across departments, right? Because in revenue operations role, you will be working with sales teams, you will be working with marketing, customer success, finance, solution consulting, partners team, right? You need to understand what these different departments do, right? You need to
Mhm.
understand what is their day-to-day work, right? And also, once you understand what they do, right, and once you are able to create your own kind of understanding of these functions, then it becomes very easier for you to translate the technical conversation into kind of a simple layman's language, or kind of technical data into business insights, if you know what I mean, right? So, and once you have been able to do that, you'll be able to communicate them clearly, right? You'll have that that capacity to be able to communicate maybe a very difficult thing in a very simple layman's language, right? And I think having this kind of quality or ability will definitely set you apart, right? And you asked for three, right? Have I done
Yeah.
two? Yeah, I've done two. Okay. So the third one I would say, and that it has helped me a lot, Aditya, is stay curious and iterate constantly. Right. What I mean by that is it's it's not revenue operation. What I liked about revenue operations or finance role, because I've done both of them, is in finance role you have got things which are kind of in a setup, right? Every month you do budgeting, comparison, forecasting comparison, you write a commentary, and that process kind of continues to repeat, right? Then every year you set up a budget, you set up forecast, and then you monitor your performance against that. There's so many things which are kind of repeatable. In revenue operations, I feel that when I say stay curious and iterate constantly, revenue operation is not like you have done it and the machinery should work on its own, right? You It's not like set it and forget it kind of a function, right? The processes as well as the system, they would need to evolve on regular basis. And also, as your company scales, you might have joined an organization when it was at a very early startup stage, but over a period of time the company did well, and the company's vision is probably vision is the same, but they want to go for bigger growth. Right now, if you want to go for a bigger growth, obviously you need to do things differently than you have been doing. So it is a continuously evolving organization process, right? So I would say stay curious, test hypothesis, right? For example, if you're not sure about something, but you have a great idea, you think, right? Implement that idea in a smaller region and see how that works. Maybe implement that idea with a smaller team and see how it works, right? If it works with that team, then you can expand that idea to a bigger team or a bigger region and see how it goes, right? And I would say one thing that is extremely important here is, take everyone together, right? Whatever you are going to do, end of the day, you cannot win alone, right? It is your idea. It could be a great idea, right? But it could be even better if you involve people. I'm not saying you involve, whole, um, number of people to discuss your idea, but at least discuss your idea with some key people within the organization. Walk them through to it, right? Tell them this is what you are thinking of doing, and whatever feedback they give, take those feedback, right? Discuss, work on them, because when you do that and when you release something after kind of doing that, trust me, the acceptability, the level of acceptance is going to be very high within the organization, because end of the day, like I said before, you are consider yourself as someone who is selling to the internal stakeholders, business stakeholders that you have, right? And you can only sell when you can show the value of that, idea, the value of that process to the people to get their buy-in before you kind of, move ahead.
Absolutely. No, those are some very good advice, Vikas. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Go To Masters. Huge thanks to Vikas for sharing his experience and valuable insights. I think it's very, very important for people to understand that to truly create a impact as part of your career in operations, it's important to make the transition from just being a supporting person to moving into a very strategic role, which is what Vikas has done during his career so far. And I hope that you continue to go even more and beyond this. Remember, you can tune in every week to learn more from game changers like Vikas, driving hyper-growth companies across the globe. Go To Masters is brought to you by Everstage, your trusted partner for transforming the way businesses handle sales compensation. I'm your host, Adit, signing off.